Hello everyone, and welcome to our next webinar in our webinar series about IBM Maximo and IBM Control Desk. Today it's about the Maximo Work Centers, and specifically what are Maximo Work Centers and what can you do with them. The topics I will cover today will be about work centers, so a little bit what are work centers exactly, the work centers themselves, so the work centers that are at the moment available in IBM Maximo, and also the last topic about making the work centers available. So what kind of authorizations do you need to set? Or what kind of settings do you need to set up before you can work yourself with the work centers? But first, about work centers. So what exactly are work centers? Well, as it said above here, Maximo work centers are basically persona role-based applications. And also you can see it as a reimagined Maximo Foundation, because most of you will already know IBM Maximo as it is for a couple of years already. But in this case, the Work Center will bring a whole new UI, a different UI to IBM Maximo, which will give you the possibility to work responsive and in a very user-driven design with IBM Maximo for specific roles. For example, you can use it on a desktop PC or a laptop, but you can also use it on a tablet or on a smartphone, for example. So it will give you the possibility for connected mobile display. And at the moment, 12 work centers are released with IBM Maximo, and they're around asset management, work management, and inventory management. And the most important part maybe of the work centers is that the streamline actions and display for specifically for the ease of training and use. So basically what we'll say with that is that users can directly start with this before they have even had any training to work with it and how they should do it. So then directly to the second topic about the work centers, and we're going to walk through a couple of the work centers, most of them which are in the system today. And it's good to notice that the work centers I show today are based on the latest version 7.6.1.1. So the first work center I want to show you guys is service requests. And service requests, we see it here on the right side on a smartphone, an iPhone in this case, is one of those work centers which will be used often on a mobile device. Today's work centers I will show all on desktop screens, but know that you can of course use this also with mobile devices. So in this case, first I'm going to create a new service request, and the first thing I get basically is the possibility to classify this service request. And we see a couple of classifications here which are built up basically in the system. You can build them up yourselves, and I will click this time first on pumps, which we can see right here. And we have a couple of other ones, but in this case I'm choosing pumps. And when I click on pumps, it will bring me to the next screen where I have the possibility to select a subcategory. So in this case I have 3 subcategories possible, which I've set up myself: centrifugal pumps, reciprocating pumps, and also rotary pumps. And in this case I'm going for the centrifugal pumps. And then it will bring me again to the next screen where I have the possibility to describe the issue with some pre-formatted issues also. So also those ones you can set up yourself based on the type of asset where they are attached to. And in this case I have a couple of issues already which I can select from, and in this case I'm saying okay, the pump is leaking. And when clicking on next, it will give me the possibility and ask me the question if I want to add a photo or a video of the issue. And in this case it will open my screen from my PC, so I can select an image. But of course on a mobile device, a tablet or a smartphone, you can make a picture directly with your device and attach it to the service request. But in this case I select this picture and click on open, to attach it to my service request. Then the next screens will be about defining the asset where the problem is occurring at the moment. And in this case, I have a couple of options to do so. I can go through my location asset hierarchy, for example, but I can also use this magnifying glass here on the left side to select one of the assets which I've got from already the selected location. So when I click on the magnifying glass, you will see the lookup which will come here on the right side, and there already is a filtered selection of assets based on the location I selected, and in this case I'm selecting the top one, so asset 11450. And you notice that there's also a search bar here where I can search on the word pump, for example, or on the asset ID which are in the system, and it will give me directly that asset with that specific number. So I click on this asset and I will go to the next screen where I already get a summary basically of all that I filled in. And here I have the possibility to just say, okay, it's a high priority request at the moment, and just click with one click on the button, submit request, and I've submitted my request. So that was a quick view through the service request work center, and I want to go now to the next one, which is work supervision. And work supervision, of course, is for a whole different role. And what we see a lot of is that planners work with this, and also work preparation roles, and that are specific roles who are working with this work center. So when I click on the next screen, we directly see that when you open this work center, this is the screen you get. And the screen is basically showing me 4 columns. And the first one is approve work, second one will be assign owner, monitor work is the third one, and the fourth one is close work. And I have some other options also here to see some historic records, and also to take a look in the service requests which are new at the moment or which are open in the system. But in this case, I'll leave it to this screen, and it gives me basically an overview of all the work orders which are assigned to me, of which I am the supervisor of, and I can click on those work orders and work on them directly from in this work center. I have a couple of searching and filtering options, of course, here, and when I click on one of those work orders, I also have the possibility to approve it directly from here with just one click on the button. But first I want to see some details about this work order. So I click on this work order, and then it will bring me to the next screen. And in this next screen, there are a lot of tiles with specific detailed information about this work order. For example, the status, the priority, which asset, and is the asset up or down at the moment, which location is it, and also with this nice pictures, of course, so it makes it visually to me right away. But also on the right side here, which is some newer functionality, the possibility to attach and apply a job plan to this work order. And that's also what I will do in this case, because I have directly a lot of tasks and material, but also labor, which I've then assigned to this work order. So when I click on that button by the job plan tile, I get a possibility to select, in this case, of 3 of the possible job plans attached to this asset. So I click on the centrifugal pump service 3 monthly, and then I will get this next screen where you can see that the job plan has filled in. So, and now I only have to approve the work order, and then it will go through exactly automatically through my assigned labor. Because that's, of course, is the next step. And I can not only assign it to one owner, I can also choose to assign it to an owner group. And then, of course, all of the people, all of the labor or technicians which are in that group will get this work order on their work center. And that's automatically also the next work center I want to go to. So the work execution work center, which is specifically also, and you can see it as the technician work center or mechanic work center. And that looks slightly different as the one before, work supervision. So if I click and go to the next slide, then we will see the start center basically when we enter this work center, what we will get. And what we can see right here is an overview of work orders. In this case, where I'm already selected the filter of all work orders, but also I have the possibility to see, okay, what do I have assigned for tomorrow? What do I have assigned for the next 3 to 5 days? What do I have to assign for today? But in this case, on purpose, I selected all, because we can see right now here all the work orders which are assigned to me with their different statuses and also with their different approaches already in which of the process where they are. So we can see some yellow ones, some green ones, also some blue ones, and the colors at the moment are based on the status of the work order. So here we can see waiting to be scheduled. This one has a yellow color. We can see that this one is in progress, which is a green color at the moment, but also the approved ones and completed ones, which are blue. And you can also see that I can directly start with the work order from this screen. But if I select this work order, the pump is leaking, the one we already had from the beginning when we're creating the service request, then also here we will get to the detail screen with the tiles, and it looks quite similar to the one of the work supervision work center. But as you can see also directly is that I have less options. Of course, the mechanic, the technician has fewer rights in this screen, so he can't change all the fields, but he certainly can change some specific things which he should be able to change. So he can see all the information. He can see when he needs to start and when this work order is used to be finished. Down below here you can see the meters which are attached to those to this asset. He can see, of course, the job plan which is attached. And when we go further on that, so when we go on from the job plan which is applied to this work order, we can go to the plan step, and there we can see all the tasks which are in the job plan. And the mechanic has the possibility in this work center here to work through the tasks piece by piece, actually, of task by task, and he can complete them all at once, or he can just work up all the tasks individually. And also the same counts for items and materials. So in this case you can see that the job plan obviously had 3 materials / items on it for this work order, and we can see some grease here, a gasket, and also a seal. And the mechanic get the information here, how many does he need from every item material and where does he need to get it from, so which storeroom. And also when I go a tab further, you can also see the comments and also post a comment himself, of course. And it looks a little bit like a chat, which a kind of WhatsApp chat, how it's looking here in the work center. So when the supervisor has add a comment, please execute this one first because of the problem, then you can simply write below here, you can simply write a comment back, no problem, I will start with this work order directly. And this is how it's summed up basically for all of this work order. And also on the last tab, you can of course see the attachments which are attached at the moment to this work order. So all from the beginning, the picture which I attached from the service request, and you can also attach some other documents or photos himself also here by clicking add attachment. So all possibilities in this work center. And when we go back to the work order screen, so the details screen of this work order in the work center, he also has the possibility above here to report work, which is of course very important with the technician, to give him the possibility that he has to report his time, materials, but also the failure. And I'm going by the time and materials at the moment, but I want to show, of course, also the failure report, which is similar, of course, to it's based on the failure reporting, which we already know from in Maximo, but this is the way it works in the work center. So we have the problem, cause, and remedy. We click on the magnifying glass, and when we filled in all the other ones, so the problem, the cause, and also the remedy, I click on the magnifying glass, and I only have to do that once because it automatically brings me through this dialog. I can just select here the predefined failure class and also the failure hierarchy, which has been built up for this kind of asset. And in this case, I've selected leaking, the seal was leaking, and I replaced the seal, and that's my remedy at the moment. And now we can see that the failure report is successfully filled in. So that was a quick look on the technician work center, or as it's called in the system, the work execution work center. And I also wanted to show those rather new functionality to IBM Maximo about inspections, which is basically in work center terms, it's divided in two work centers. So we have the manage inspection forms and we have conduct an inspection, which will follow after this one. So first, manage inspection forms. And when we sign into this work center and I have the proper authorizations, I will get to this inspection form library where I have an overview of all the inspection forms I already created until now. And also I can see directly which revision at the moment is there and also which one is active. And I have some other possibilities to take a direct view into the form, how it looks like, to see some additional information. But in this case, I will open this inspection form. And when I click on this one, we can directly see, and I told it already a moment ago very quickly, but the inspection forms are working with revisions. As we already know from several other applications within Maximo, you can use revisions with the inspection forms. And that will give you the possibility to, from your first version of this inspection form, to create a revision, to make some slightly small changes, for example, and then you don't have to create or duplicate the form itself, but just create a revision and change the little things you want to change and make that new one active. So we can now see that this one is active, and I created already a new revision, which is still in pending revision because I'm working on that one and it's not still active. And also the possibility from the start screen to create, of course, a new form. And I will show how that looks. So I click on create a new form, and then we have some possibilities here. I can enter some form instructions, which I'm doing at the moment. So I can put some specific instructions, for example, per asset type or something that someone needs appropriate certificate for something. And also I have a type for this inspection form. I can say in this case, this is just an inspection, but also it could be, for example, an audit. So that it's based on the type of form you're creating. And of course, the most important one here is the possibility to add questions. And this is how that will look. So when I add a question, I have a couple of possibilities here. On the left side, we can see certain response fields, and there are a couple of them. So date entries, asset data, for example, meter readings, media, so a file upload, a numeric entry, or selectable responsive, single choice, which is the one I'm showing right now. So okay, not okay, and when it's not okay, for example, that a follow-up work order needs to be created. So that are all options we have here. And when I'm done with entering and adding all those questions, you can create also groups from them. So I have 4 questions here, which I have made a group from, which I've called general. And also the meter readings, I've created a group meter readings where they need to enter the meter readings. I've created a group photo where they need to make a photo of the crane. Date and time, they need to fill in the exact time and date of the inspection. And this is how you can build up the whole inspection form in an easy way in this work center. And you can see on the right side here with the litter bins and also the pencils here, you can just easily put some changes in there and change a little bit if it's needed. And when I'm done, I click save, and I've actually created an inspection form in this work center. And this will also bring me directly to the next topic, conduct an inspection. Because creating the forms is great, but I also want to let my mechanic execute or conduct the inspection. And of course, that's based on the form I just created. So this is the overview, the inspector technician, or how the role is called, but this is the overview he will get. So He also has some filters above here: pending, in progress, completed, and all of them again. And he will just get an overview of all the inspections which are at the moment scheduled, or he can just start an unscheduled inspection. And also with the wrench here, you can see which work order number is attached to that inspection. So it could be an inspection on itself, or it could be an inspection which is some sort of task of a certain work order. And in this case, I click on the overhead crane inspection. And that will bring me to the next screen, where I get at first the instructions which the inspector supervisor has filled in on the form. I can read through them, and then I click on start to start the inspection. And I already filled in some things here, so the first one is okay, the second one is not okay. And you can see directly there is a little warning sign here that a follow-up work order will be created to fix any brake problems, because this one is about the braking system. And this also the same for this one: check the electrical systems, it's not okay, so a follow-up work order will be created to fix the electrical system. And this is how it works. And on the left side, you noticed that earlier that I created some groups. You can see those groups in here. And here you have the possibility to also open the group and see the questions specifically piece by piece. And when I'm done with the first group of questions, we automatically scroll down and go to the second group of questions. In this case, it's the meter readings group. And I've on purpose I've used two meters actually here. So we have the meter where I have to select the appropriate oil color, which is a characteristic meter. And in this case, I selected the oil is clear, very good. And also I have a run hours meter in here, where I just need to fill in the amount of what the asset is telling me at the moment. And when we then proceed to the third group, which is about attaching a photo. So I need to make a photo of the overhead crane. Well, in this case, I did it on a PC, so I select a photo in this case. But of course, again, on a mobile device, a tablet or something like that, you just create a photo and attach it to the inspection. And it doesn't have to be a photo, it could also be some other document. And then proceed to the last group, which is about date and time. So I need to fill in the exact date and time of this inspection, and it will help me with this dialog to make it as easy as possible to fill in the exact date and time at the moment. And we can also see above here the picture I added to the inspection form. And when I'm done with that, I click on complete, and then automatically the follow-up work orders for the points for the questions which weren't okay will be created. So in this case, we can see for question 2 and 3, there is a work order created 1502, and that work order also has one task already for that other point which is not okay. And that's how this works. So it will create automatically a follow-up work order. And when I'm all done, I will proceed then to the last screen of my inspection form, which is showing me the answers I filled in. It's all grayed out, so I'm done. I also see that down below here, because I've all the required and also the total amount of questions, I've all finished and complete them. And then I just click on exit to finish with this and complete this inspection form. So then the slightly new work center, which is called Manage Inventory. And this one is specifically also only available in 7.6.1.1. So it's pretty new and only available in this version. And I will show a couple of slides about this work center, which is very interesting. So at first, when you enter this work center, you will see that you will directly get an overview of all the reservations. And it is a reservations overview with, of course, the dates and for which item. And on the right side, you have the points here. You can click on them and you can edit this reservation, or you can issue it directly or delete it, for example. And reservation is not the only one on this option, also the issued items. And the issued items will give me, of course, an overview of all the items that are issued and how many of them are issued on which particular date. So just an overview of the reservations and issued items, and you can also see that you can view this in a certain amount of time. So from this date to this date. And in this case, I have 22 results. And when I proceed, on the second option here on the left side, you can see also that you get a storerooms overview. And in this case, in my system, I had 7 storerooms, and I can click on one particular storeroom here, central storeroom, where I get an overview of all the items with their balances in this storeroom. So I can decollapse it, and you can see also all the bins and all the amounts, the balances, the available amounts, the staged amounts, so all the different amounts which are there. You can see that in this screen. And also not only balances but also counts. So when I click on counts, you can see here that I get an overview of all the items in this storeroom, and I have the possibility to click on the plus or the minus icon to just make a new count so that all the amounts of items are properly filled in. And also in the last part, I get an overview of all the items which I have in the system. So I see here an overview of all the items with their appropriate status at the moment and the commodity group they're in. And in this case, I click on this item and I also get a detailed view of this particular item. And you can see here, there are 2 little tabs here. So in this case, I'm on the details. I can see a nice picture or some other attachments which are attached to this item. I can see the status. I can see some other information, for example, the issue unit, the order unit, the commodity group and the commodity code. Also the default vendor on the right side. And when I click on the second tab, storerooms, I get, of course, an overview for this particular item and in all the storerooms that this item is in. Of course, again, with the bins and also the balances which are for this item at the moment. So that was quickly about the Manage Inventory Work Center. Then also, last but not least, the Business Analysis Work Center. And well, I think maybe you already seen this before. This work center is already there from version 1, and yeah, that will just give you an analytic overview of some work order data in the system. So we can see on top, we can see some KPIs, some information about the KPIs here, and also here we can see in a graphic way, see some information about, for example, overdue work, backlog work, waiting on material work. So, and all in a graphical way, and you can enlarge and click through those graphics if you want to. And then the last topic of today's webinar is about making the work centers available, because I want to give you guys some little information for the ones who are not knowing this, of course. How can you make those work centers available to yourselves? So what do you need to set up? And that's of course part of the security groups application, because also the work centers are basically just applications where you need to grant access to for a particular group or persons. And in this case, I will give a little tip. Maybe it's good to and useful to create a security group per work center, as I did in this example. So I created the group Work Execution Work Center, and when I go to the next slide, you also have then the possibility to fill in the default application, and that will be then the Technician Work Center in this case, so the Work Execution Work Center. And that will mean that, of course, when you log in with that particular user and he only needs to work, for example, on this work center, that he automatically logs in also on this work center. So when it comes to granting access to those work centers, what you can do is when you're on the Applications tab in the Security Groups application, you just filter on this in the Application Type column, and that will give you all the work centers. So you can see some of them are called work centers, some of them are called tools and tasks, but in this case I focus on the work center technician. And when I select this one, I go a little bit down, you can see that there's a button Manage Apply Template. And when you click on Manage Apply Template, it will give you this next screen, and there will be standard templates already, which are set up this way that it will give you all the proper authorizations you need to work in a good way with this work center. So the template's already there. You only have to click Apply Template. It will give you this message, this system message, it's just to give you a heads up about what he's doing. Click on OK, and you actually set up the proper authorizations for this work center. As you can see right here, now I've granted access for this particular group. And that's basically it. So this is the way for every work center, basically how you can grant access to them. Then one last slide is about entering the work center. So there are actually two ways of entering an authorized work center. You can enter them via a separate URL, which is basically the normal URL from your Maximo system, and then with this Stripe X behind it. And that will give you basically this different login screen, particularly for the work centers. But there's also another way of entering the work centers, and that's just from the go-to menu, which we all know from IBM Maximo. For example, the work execution work center, you just go to the work orders module, and when you are authorized to that work center, you can just click the work center from there. You can also see, for example, below here, conduct an inspection, which I'm also authorized to. So that are the two ways of entering an authorized work center. So that was it for today in this webinar. And of course, I also want to ask some attention for our next webinar, which is on Thursday, the 25th of June, and it's about configuring Workcenter. And also take a look at our website again for a total overview of all the upcoming webinars. So thank you all again for viewing this webinar or attending this webinar. And yeah, we will hopefully see you all back again in the next webinar. Thanks.